First, I would like to introduce our cast. My name is Bob Wade, and I'll be the moderator. We have the chair of the panel will be Clarity, Michelle Schaefer. The panel itself, Algia Cologne, Tommy Senator, and Elisa Knittel. The complainant, Jennifer Lopez, is Jenny Moorhead. Our respondent, Don Wanasell, Skip Kitchen. Today's program showcases a mock ethics hearing. The circumstances surrounding the dispute before us is to demonstrate the basic elements of an ethics hearing. The NAR Code of Ethics Manual states that alleged violations of the Code of Ethics are considered by hearing panels of the Professional Standards Committee of the association having jurisdiction. The decision of the hearing panel will be made by a majority vote and will be in writing, containing the findings of facts, the conclusions, and any discipline proposed. In an ethics hearing, the ultimate burden of proving the allegations is always on the complainants. The standard of proof by which alleged violations are determined is clear, strong, and convincing. Any person, whether a member or not, may file a complaint against an association member alleging violations of any article of the code. However, the complaint must be submitted typewritten or legible writing on an ethics complaint form, be signed by the complainant, state the facts surrounding the case, be filed within 180 days after the facts could have been known. A complainant may file a complaint from any location. However, the complainant must file it with the association having jurisdiction over the individual named as the respondent in the complaint. The respondent must be an active member of the association. If the complaint is forwarded to a hearing, the complainant must appear. Since 1920, many hearings have been held virtually. Virtual appearance requires prior approval. No award of money or punitive damages is ever considered by an ethics hearing. Two committees of the association handle complaints: the Grievance Committee and the Professional Standards Committee. Our Professional Standards Committee currently is chaired by Algia Cologne, and our co-chair is Michelle Schaefer. So thank you so much for your service. Our Grievance Committee is chaired by Hank Bernadetto and co-chaired Linka Doyle. Is Linka here? Okay, Linka, thank you so much. The Grievance Committee reviews complaints received by the association's Professional Standards Administrator. Our Professional Standards Administrator, Julie, where are you? Julie, thank you so much. Julie does such a great job for us. The Grievance Committee determines whether the complaint merits further consideration. If it does not determine guilt or innocence. The Grievance Committee only sees the complaint and accompanying documentation. The Grievance Committee guidelines include the following. Is the complaint in an acceptable form? Are all necessary parties named in the complaint? Is the respondent named in the complaint a member of the association, or was the respondent a member of any association at the time of the alleged offense? Is litigation or any government agency investigation or other action pending related to the same transaction? If yes, then this may cause a delay in the processing. Was the complaint filed within 180 days of the time that the complainant, in the exercise of reasonable diligence, could have known the alleged offense and facts relating to it? Is there any reason to conclude that the association would be unable to provide an impartial hearing panel? Are the specific articles cited in the complaint appropriate? Should additional articles be cited, or perhaps additional parties named? If the facts alleged in the complaint were taken as true on their face, is it possible that a violation of the ethics occurred? After reviewing the complaint, the grievance committee will either dismiss the complaint or forward it for a hearing before a professional standards hearing panel. If the grievance committee dismisses a complainant has the right to appeal the dismissal to the board of directors. In an appeal, the board of directors re-examine only the materials that were submitted to and reviewed by the grievance committee. No parties are present. The board of directors can either uphold or overturn the grievance committee decision. Now we're going to witness and analyze an ethics hearing as it makes its way through the hearing process. To accomplish this, we will be using our trusty stop go sign to show everyone, to let you know when it's time to break away to discuss how the hearing is progressing. When we are done, we'll flip the sign to go and the hearing will resume. This is an interactive program, and we will open the floor for discussion from time to time. For the sake of time, we are presenting an abbreviated version of the actual proceedings.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now call this hearing to order. The Professional Standards Committee is charged with holding the appropriate hearings for the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association in accordance with the procedures as set forth in the association's bylaws and NAR's guidelines in matters concerning alleged unethical conduct of a member. The body meeting here is an impartial panel of the Professional Standards Committee that's been selected and called here today to ascertain the truth in the matter at hand, which is an ethics proceedings, and to render a decision on the testimony and evidence presented. At this time, I would like to introduce the members of the panel. My name is Clarity, and I will serve as chairperson for this panel. Other members of the panel are Al Jackalone, Tommy Senator, Elisa Knittel. Also present at this hearing is Jennifer Lopez, the complainant, and Don Juana Sell with Don Juan Realty, the respondent.
In addition, at this point, witnesses would be introduced together with attorneys. The association's professional standards administrator, legal counsel for the association, and the court reporter. So as you can see, this is a very formal hearing. You have a court reporter, you have the attorney, you have the association secretary. Generally, you have 5 members of the panel, so there's quite a number of people involved and expense to the association. Principals and witnesses are then sworn in or affirmed prior to giving testimony. Once everyone has been sworn in or affirmed, the witnesses are dismissed until it is time for them to testify. It is important to note that the standards within the articles support the complaint.
This hearing has been established to consider the complaint of Jennifer Lopez versus Don Juana Sell, alleging a violation of Articles 10 and 15 of the Code of Ethics of the National Association. Article 10, I'm sure you all know Article 10. It's to do with realtors. Realtors shall not deny equal professional services to any person for reasons of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Realtors shall not be parties to any plan or agreement to discriminate against a person or persons on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. This was amended in January of 14. Realtors, in their real estate employment practices, shall not discriminate of any persons or persons on the basis of said before. Article 15, realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their business or their business practices. The panel may rule at any time on the admissibility of evidence. As chairperson, I will act as keeper of the evidence introduced at this hearing and mark each with an exhibit identification number or letter and date. The members of the panel are authorized individually to ask questions as they deem pertinent and significant at any time of this hearing. And prepare, because Al likes to ask a lot of questions. To preserve order, I will rule on questions or testimonies by the parties or their representatives or by witnesses in this proceeding. If deemed necessary, I will consult with members of the panel and the board counsel concurring such rulings. We shall now proceed with the hearing. The complainant will now state her case and present any evidence or witnesses she may desire.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Lopez. I'm a realtor with Here's Your New Home Realty. I was working with buyers who wanted to see a listing that Mr. Juwanasell had listed. I followed the showing instructions in the MLS and scheduled a showing. I showed my buyers several properties that afternoon. We were running ahead of schedule, and I asked the respondent if we could go earlier, but he said no. We just moved forward looking at other properties, and that evening, Mr. Juwanasell texted me asking why I never showed up to his listing appointment. It was then that I realized my error by overlooking the property, but forgetting to cancel, and I apologized. We just got so caught up and busy, and he had canceled our appointment and told me I couldn't go earlier that I just simply forgot. He kept texting me and then calling me repeatedly. I told him to stop. He began verbally harassing me. I hung up and refused to answer his calls. And then he just started texting me these racial slurs and insults based on my Latina heritage. All the texts are attached in my complaint. He said things like, "You piece of scum, you should not be in real estate. I bet you're Spanish, aren't you? You typical inconsiderate, lazy Spanish people need to go home. Just go back where you came from. If you cannot be professional, you need to get out of this business and stop wasting people's other time. You are pathetic. Screw you. You're mad because you're unprofessional and stupid and inconsiderate. Don't try the oldest game in the book and blame me. You're the problem. I bet you're Spanish, aren't you? You're probably a Democrat that voted and hiding behind Biden. You probably wear a mask when you're in your car. You need to just call my tenants and explain how inconsiderate. How can you look at yourself in the mirror? You're such a lowlife. I can't even see you on my radar. Go crawl back under your rock. It's pathetic."
Let the record show the complainant has entered the following documents into the record. You have attachments in your package of phone records of conversations between the complainant and the respondent, text messages between the complainant and the respondent. Mr. Juwanasell, at this time, you have the right to cross-examine the complainant.
Hey, good, because this emotion stuff sucks. And you really don't deserve to have any complaint against me at all. This is business. Did you make an appointment to show my listing?
Yes, I did, and I tried to reach out to you.
Yeah, but did you show the listing?
No, sir, I did not. I showed my client several properties, and again, I sincerely apologize. It was simply an oversight on my part, not to call you. I'm so sorry.
Did you call my tenants to apologize?
Mr. Juwanasell, how am I supposed to contact
No,
your
you
tenants?
just let them wait. You
Don't
just let
interrupt
them
me.
wait for no reason. You know what? That's unprofessional, and I think it's rude, and I'm sick and tired of this kind of stuff.
Sir. Lower your voice, settle down a little bit. You will have an opportunity to present your case. Panel members, do you have any questions for the complainant? Tom?
Mr. Juwanasell, you are familiar with 10-5, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. And it says, I agree not to discriminate or, stuff like that. And I didn't discriminate against anybody. She didn't do her job.
I mean, I looked at these text messages. Those are yours, right, between you and the complainant?
Yeah, I was a little angry, yeah.
Tom, any questions for Ms. Lopez?
Sure. So again, so those were the actual text messages between both of you, correct?
Yes, sir, they were.
Any other questions from the panel members? Thank you.
Okay, members and guests of the forum, do you have any questions of the complainant? Yes, ma'am.
Are you allowed to have a lawyer present after this?
Allowed to have a witness?
A lawyer.
A lawyer? Yes. Yes, you can have a lawyer. Let me turn this down. Yes, you can have an attorney represent you. You also have the option of having a realtor represent you at the hearing.
Okay.
In this case, neither the complainant nor the respondent were represented by legal counsel, nor did either party have a witness.
You did tell them this was a real case, right?
I'm sorry?
Did we let them know this was an actual case? Oh.
So, do we have any other questions from the forum? Any other questions?
Everybody here thinks I'm right. That's pretty cool.
The complainant has no witness to call and has submitted all of her documentation. Mr. Iwanisel will now state his case and present any evidence or witnesses that he may desire.
Well, like I
Sir?
said, it looks like I've got the witnesses as the audience on my side, and I appreciate that. But to begin with, I'd like to let you know a few things about me. I'm a very successful realtor. I've been in the business for over 30 years. And I've always conducted myself with the utmost professionalism and pride myself for having very strong work ethic. And expect the same on my fellow realtors, not a bunch of crime. I was named one of the top 5 realtors in the United States, and I'm really angry to have somebody question my ethical standards and situation. In reference to this complaint filed, perhaps out of frustration, I may have made some remarks that were perhaps not appropriate. But her total lack of professionalism and ignorance put me in a bad position. Tenants get mad when realtors don't show up for scheduled showings. All she had to do was the right thing. She didn't show, and now I'm forced to sit there or here and defend myself against her lack of ethics, her lack of professionalism, and for doing the right and for not doing the right thing. All of this could have been avoided if she simply picked up the phone. Period. Nothing I said was true or is untrue. Over the years, I've witnessed the quality of some realtors in this go down, and I think it's a shame. Someone needs to speak up and hold realtors accountable. This is America, and I have freedom of speech, and I don't need the crime.
Let the record show the respondent has entered the following document into the record: phone records and calls to and from the complainant. Ms. Lopez, at this time, you have the right to cross-examine the respondent if you'd like to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Juanicel, do you agree that the remarks you made to me were hateful and racially charged?
Hey, look, I was angry. I've been a realtor for over 30 years, and in the last several years, here come the Miami people doing whatever they want. You know, I get a little frustrated. All you had to do was cancel, and you didn't, and now my tenant's furious and doesn't want any more showing. Thanks a lot.
So you say all I had to do was call. Have you never made a mistake in your 30-year perfect career?
Not that I can recall.
I admitted and told you I made a mistake. It happens. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And all those things you said were just hateful and hurtful and just inappropriate and unprofessional. I don't have any more questions. I think the texts say it all.
Panel, do you have any questions for the respondent?
I have one.
Okay.
You stated in your text messages, you stated that Ms. Lopez was unprofessional. Do you feel that your text messages were professional?
Like I said, I was a little angry. I mean, the point is she didn't show it to my tenants. And that's the big issue here. It has nothing to do with anything else. I shouldn't even be here for that matter.
I have a question for the complainant. Ms. Lopez, did you forget to go back and show, or did you think that the seller's agent was going to go ahead and cancel?
Quite honestly, there were so many showings, and I told him I had to go early. I just simply forgot. I admit that it was a problem, and I should have called, but I just made a mistake. It was not intentional.
Any questions from the audience?
I have a question,
Oh,
Madam
sorry, go
Chair.
ahead.
Excuse me. Are you, obviously you're familiar with Article 10 of the Code of Ethics. Are you familiar with standard of practice?
I got it right here. You know, I just don't care. I care about doing my job and not giving realtors a bad reputation, okay? I mean, that's what this is all about.
With that being said, I'd like to see if the audience has any questions for the respondent.
See, I think they all agree with me.
Maybe they're afraid of you.
I just want to sell.
Do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
In Article 10, dash 5, Standard Practice 5, when it speaks about using harassing speech or hate speech, is it specifically referring to clients or is it also in reference to other agents?
No, it could be clients, customers, peers, quite honestly, anyone.
Right.
If someone were to go in on Facebook and make these kind of statements and allegations and that sort of thing, whoever that's targeted to could file a complaint. So the public could file a complaint.
Right. Well, it's just that because Article 10 is specifically referring to discrimination based on discrimination of an individual for the purposes of purchasing real estate, right? So that would imply referring to clients.
It's more open than that.
Article 10 falls under duty to the public, though.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Charlene. I have a question for the respondent. When you were sworn into the association, did you sign the Code of Ethics?
Well, probably, if I had to, yeah.
Have you taken your renewal Code of Ethics?
I
Every 2 years?
I think I had to do it, you know, to meet the requirements. I mean, I don't recall exactly what it was.
Okay,
I mean-
so you are aware of our standards?
I've got it right here.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, the complainant and respondent are asked by the chair to give a closing statement. The complainant goes first and the respondent second. The chair then asks, do each of you feel this hearing has been conducted fairly and have each of you had adequate opportunity to testify, present evidence and witnesses, and conduct cross-examination? The hearing is then adjourned and the parties are dismissed. It is now time for executive session, where the panel will now discuss and deliberate in the presence of the Association Counsel and Professional Standards Administrator. Let's take a moment to discuss this case. We want to know what you think. So I'm going to open it up to the forum. What is your thinking regarding this case? Is there a violation of either article?
Yeah. I think so. I think they were both, what happened, she not making the appointment was an unprofessional act on her part. But his response to that was well above and beyond that. He could have criticized her for that, but he went so far beyond that and made slurs, racial slurs and discriminatory comments, and that's where he crossed the line.
So you feel like there's a violation of both articles?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, I am Spanish, and I've been asked if I'm Spanish a million times, but I'm really trying to pin down the racial slur. Where's the racial slur? Yeah, because Spanish. I mean, I am Spanish. I get asked that on the phone all the time.
You said it to her in the
That's not a racial slur. Because scum is not a racial slur.
He asked her where she came from.
Did you read it?
I am Hispanic and I get asked that. Yeah, and I get asked that all the time.
Go back where you came from.
That, again, is that a racial slur?
Go back where you came, if somebody tells me.
Is there something, in the text messages for this case, one of the texts that came through was typically inconsiderate, lazy Spanish people go home.
Right, again, I'm just asking, I make a lot of phone calls, I'm sure all you guys do, and I get asked weird things, and I turn some of those conversations into clients, even starting off on the wrong foot. I just, a bad descriptor or describing somebody as Spanish when you are Spanish, or even an American, calling you an American, does that really fall under a racial slur? I mean, I'm just curious where, yeah, it was awful. It was ugly text. I definitely think it was aggressive. It was not, I just failed to see where the racial slur actually sat. Being told to go home, and I've been told that many times, I never consider that a racial slur. That's more.
I do see what he is saying.
Yeah,
My mother's Cuban, so I am aware of what typical racial slurs are, and I won't even begin to say what they are.
Right.
And none of that was in that text, but he is descriptive on ethnicity.
I think
Right.
it's great that you guys feel that way. However, he's saying in a derogatory
That's the word, yeah, definitely
I
derogatory,
bet-
yes.
Yeah, I bet you're Spanish, aren't you? Saying there's something wrong with you being Spanish.
It's derogatory, but
Right.
I wouldn't call that a slur.
That's what yeah, it's definitely derogatory. That's the word I was looking for, but I did not see that.
He's
racial
alleging
slur.
her incompetence is due to her ethnicity.
Right, but you can allege somebody's incompetence due to anything when you're angry. I agree, it was awful, it was ugly, it was derogatory, but I failed to see the racial slur in there.
I think it falls under hate speech.
One at a time, one at a time. Tom?
So let me just read something because I think this is where we're missing this point. Standard practice 10.5 said, realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. So we just gotta be clear on what we're looking at.
Okay.
Those texts match that pretty good.
Harassing, yes, and I agree, but the statement wasn't, was racial slurs use. So that's what I was just wondering where.
I agree with that.
It's more hate speech,
Hate speech,
just
yeah.
because the aggressiveness of harassment in the actual perspective. So,
Which is a violation.
Yeah.
Which is a violation.
So any one of those things would render a violation of the article.
And I'm not saying that it wasn't, I think it's pretty, I think we all agree that it's pretty clear. But I just want to clarify, because when you make a judgment on somebody, it's good to know what you're claiming. If it doesn't match, I'm sorry, to looking at the facts, right? Somebody says, well, I'm angry because he used the racial slurs, and I'm reading all the text, I'm like, I don't see a racial slur. Now they say, well, it's also the hate speech and the harassment. I'm like, 100% the harassment's there, I just don't see the racial slur. So that just wanted to make sure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you for
Thank
your
you.
insight.
Thank you for that.
Okay, other positions?
I think the clarification would be that it doesn't have to be all of those,
Anyone?
any one of those.
Right.
Okay, anyone else have a position? Yes, ma'am.
I think there's definitely a violation here, but as far as talking about the complainant, anything she may have done wrong is not in this case. The respondent could have filed against her. He chose not to. So this case itself is only about his behavior, not hers.
Okay, very good. Any other positions? Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you think there's a violation of Article 10? Okay. Is there anyone that feels like there wasn't a violation of Article 10? Okay, how many of you feel there was a violation of Article 15? Is there a show of hands of people that feel like Article 15 was not violated? No? Okay. Well, it looks pretty unanimous. Okay, I would also like to poll the chair and the panel if they believe there was a violation of the Code of Ethics 10 and 15. So a show of hands, is that unanimous? Okay, very good. All right. So at this time, with the assistance of legal counsel, the panel develops their findings of facts
render a decision, and determine the penalties, if any. The board has latitude, but must act responsibly, making sure that punishment is commensurate with the offense. Recommendations may range from a mild letter of warning to termination of membership. An appropriate and reasonable fine not to exceed $15,000 may also be assessed. Education requirements may be required as well. So those of you in the audience, assuming the violations of the code, what do you think would be a reasonable punishment for this respondent?
Raise your hand. Carolyn, you're not going to say anything.
Someone want to share your thoughts on what you think reasonable punishment might be?
I know the outcome, so I'm abstaining, but.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, part of what we try to do with professional standards is teach them, to re-educate them so they don't do these things. So I think the lowest part we would start with would be making them take ethics classes and things like that. And then we'll go beyond that, but I'll start with that. Somebody else can jump in with the money.
Okay, so we have a vote here for ethics classes. Okay, yes, ma'am.
So my question is this his first ethics complaint, or has he had more than one throughout?
No, this is the first. This is the first. Okay.
Bob, can you describe the range of financial penalty that is available?
Well, the financial can be anywhere from $1 to $15,000.
They can get a letter or another.
I'm sorry?
Can you talk about the different
Yeah,
punishments?
yeah, I mean, it starts out with a general letter of warning, to a letter of reprimand, to request to attend classes, or a requirement to attend ethics classes, right on up to the financial fines. Yes, sir.
I think a fair judgment would be a letter of reprimand combined with a requirement to take additional classes. And in that letter of reprimand, saying, if this were to happen again, that, there would obviously be more severe penalties.
Okay, consequences for a second offense.
Right.
Within a period of time.
Right.
Okay, all right, very good. Yes, sir.
So to me, it seems like all of us have to take the ethics classes pretty regularly. I think the ethics classes is probably a wash. We all know the ethics. We all take the classes every year. He knows, he's been doing it for 30 years, so he knows his ethics pretty well. I think maybe anger management would be a better.
I got
Very good. Other thoughts? Other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
I think because he does not feel he did anything wrong here, that the only thing that's gonna get through to him, sorry, Skip, is some kind of financial burden here. I don't think a letter of reprimand is gonna do anything for a person like that.
Okay.
I would like to see about $1,000.
How much?
1,000.
1,000?
Yes.
Okay. I hear 1,000.
Won't do it again.
15? Okay, that's the maximum. Okay, yes,
I
ma'am.
just want to piggyback on his comment, which is worth taking into consideration. If you have been a Realtor, which means you agree to uphold the code of ethics for 35 years, conservatively, you've taken code of ethics training 10 times.
Nice.
So while this might be your first appearance, you've taken it 10 times. And me personally, what gets folks' attention? Their wallets. And that typically is why this is an option available to us. And we've all been to classes where folks have phoned it in, and especially now in the Zoom format, okay, fine, I'll turn on my computer for 3 hours and click off my screen and go wash my dog or something. But I like where this side of the room's coming from here.
Make him pay for his own anger, man.
To continue what you're saying, you can also specify in person.
Yes, you can.
You need to take it in person so that they can't do that. So you hit them in their pocketbook for the money, and then you take away their time because they have to sit in that class. That's another way to do it.
And could we say that gas is $5 a gallon? You will take this course in Jacksonville, so you know.
Take a ticket in Miami.
Yeah, yes, and it is offered in Spanish.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. So if, let's say a respondent ends up getting a letter of reprimand, which is basically a slap on the wrist, is that something that is public record?
Not public record, it's kept in their personal file within the association. So if they ever needed a letter of good standing, they would not have a letter of good standing in this association. Should they attempt to join another association, it would be a part of their records. That association would request the information. And Julie, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't NAR basically have this record?
NAR will receive a notification that they have an ethics matter, but specifically not what the recommendation is.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, other thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
I want to go back just a little bit, just to kind of clarify. As I was reading that again with the harassing speech and hate speech, that it says that it's on the race or color or religion, so on and so forth. What is the definition of harassing speech and hate speech to the association?
To the association?
Yes.
You know, I can't tell you off the top of my head exactly what it is.
Anybody?
But in effect, it would be the opinion of the panel. In other words, does it constitute hate speech, harassment, that sort of thing, by the panel?
I could
The
add a
panel
little
would
to
make
that.
decision. Yes, Julie?
Go ahead, Caroline.
Well, this was added at the end of 2021, so it's a relatively new amendment. 2020, I'm sorry. A lot of controversy because many folks came out saying, how does this buck up against free speech? And who is the National Association of Realtors? This is not the Supreme Court here to tell us how we speak. It is met with controversy because the entire ethics hearing is subjective. And as we've seen, even in legal cases, it often depends on how well which party presented their case better. Doesn't necessarily, the right and wrong aspect of it is very, very gray, but it is an evolving standard of practice. And I would suggest, because there's a lot written about it on the FR website, and also articles appear in Florida Realtor and Realtor, because there's a lot of folks that say, look, I agree with the code of ethics, but is this an overreach of NAR? And it's to be developed, but for that precise reason. There is not one clear definition anywhere in this world of what is precisely hate speech. It's how well you present what has happened, and essentially back into that topic.
And you look at the context of it, like the word
Yes.
Spanish.
Yes.
You can say Spanish nicely, or you could say Spanish
Yes.
bad. I can say you dog, or I can say you dog.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to be how it's
How you say
interpreted.
that,
You
what you
have
say.
to look at the entire situation, and that's one thing we do when we're on the panel is you can't just take one little sentence and decide that that's hate speech, or this person is not going to do business with them.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and
But
keep in mind,
Julie
your
will
realtor is 24 hours
attest.
a day. So when you're at the ballpark with your kids,
Yeah.
do not be yelling bad things that will fall under 10-5.
But Julie will attest, as well as other associations, that the largest rise in ethics complaint is coming out of this article. So it's getting the attention of members, and this is just in this state. Remember, this is a national document, so I have to presume countrywide, this is getting the
We are
attention.
governed
Thank you for
by
your
NAR.
input. Yes, Julie?
We are governed by NAR, so the code of ethics is what we live by.
Right.
If it's a legal matter, it has to go through the court system. We have no power to do anything legal at the association level.
All right, thank you. Yes, Sharon? Or Suzanne?
That's okay, that's okay. I think what we have to look at is the context when you're on a panel, it's the entire series of events. What happened? It's kind of like with procuring costs. It's the series of events that led up to it. Also, we all choose to become members of the National Association of Realtors, and agree to operate by that code of ethics that sets forth. That is exactly what sets us aside from being a licensee. So it is a requirement of your membership. It's not intended to take your free speech, and in court, there have been a few court cases, and there are holding. You can still earn a living selling real estate as a licensee. You can still earn a commission, you can still do all that. It is the membership, and it is all about the golden rule. In any speech that's taken where it is intended to harass or intimidate someone, that's the whole point. It's the harassment factor.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts, insight? Yes, ma'am.
He did repeatedly state when, several of the panel members asked, are you aware of, 10-5 or are you aware of 10? And he goes, yeah, I have it right in front of me. I just don't care. So, I mean, is there any point where that's repeated enough or this kind of behavior is a repeat that you can strip him of his realtor status?
Yes, he could be suspended. That's another option. He could be suspended.
So what was your name?
Good, yes, sir.
My question is, why even consider sending the respondent to ethics training when he clearly doesn't even remember his last ethics training? So what's that going to do for him? He clearly hasn't learned over his 30 years. I think the only reasonable thing here is you got to
I
find.
think we had some real insight that should have been to at least 10 ethics trainings.
But he's clearly stated he doesn't even remember his last one. He said, yeah, I think I went to. So,
Okay, all right, others? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I was on the committee for NAR for the decision that was made in 2020.
Right.
And just to let you all know, it's not just us in Florida. NAR had many complaints all over the United States of people using hate speech and talking poorly to one another. And yes, both Carolyn and Suzanne did speak to, if you are a realtor, you are a member of the National Association of Realtors, and you sign an agreement. And that's why we want all of the realtors, not just the licensees, to be respectful of one another. And there were hundreds and thousands of complaints with things like some of the verbiage that was in this, you're scum, you're this or that. You're professionals, and you just should not be speaking to another realtor in that manner. And that's why they had to add a few things to 10.5.
Okay, all right. Yes,
I had
sir.
a quick question, and I think we did cover it, but I'm sure. Now, this is 300% of this case, right? The board composition, you're 4. I think you said, is it 5?
Yes.
Now, is it because if you got like a really tough case and you're split, right? Okay, so this case is not a really great scenario, but is it majority of the board? Or
Majority of
so
the
it'd be like
panel.
3-2, okay, okay.
The majority of the panel.
Right.
More oftentimes than not, it's unanimous, because
Well, yeah, right.
we batted back and forth until pretty much we're all in agreement. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, except for him throwing out the word Spanish, I don't really think it's violating 10, but the Article 15 for sure. I mean, he told her scum and smart ass, pathetic.
Right.
I mean, he's really disparaging another realtor.
All right, good.
Can you also add that after we make our decision, it gets submitted and that it's reviewed by the board? And the board reviews it, and if they think that the decision was wrong, they'll send it back down to professional standards, that we need to discuss it again. Or, yeah.
Okay, one more, and then we'll move on. Yes, sir.
So what he was saying, I reread Article 10, and he is right. The way the verbiage is on there, it does seem like it's more geared towards clients, not other realtors. When you read it carefully,
Ways of life.
it's implications. I mean, that's somebody might take an implication, somebody might not see it. But it does seem like it's more geared towards. If you read it carefully, the implication is there, yes, but it's not stated that, it really seems like it's more towards clients.
Dash 4.
A member of the public could file. and that would be a decision to be made by the
Right, but would she being a realtor, would she qualify as a member of the public?
Yes. Well, if you look at the report, it talks about independent contractors and people performing real estate employment practices. And clerical staff directly supporting to those individuals.
In the first sentence, it says.
Okay,
any
moving
person.
on.
Any person.
This case today was based on a real case heard by this association, and it was processed through our grievance committee, and the hearing took place before our professional standards panel. The decision of the hearing panel is filed with all parties who are given an opportunity to appeal. If no appeal is filed, the decision is ratified by the board of directors and it becomes final and binding. So I have the decision of the hearing panel, and I'd like to share that with you. Findings of fact. The respondent, via a series of text messages attached hereto, are made a part hereof as Exhibit A, violated Article 10 and the standards contained therein of the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. Realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Number 2, the respondent, via the aforementioned text messages, also violated Article 15 of the NAR Code of Ethics. Realtors shall not knowingly or recklessly make false or misleading statements about other real estate professionals, their business, or their business practice. The conclusions of the hearing panel. Respondent did violate Articles 10 and 15. It is the unanimous decision of this panel to the Board of Directors that the following discipline be taken. 1, a formal letter of reprimand to remain permanently in the respondent's file. Congratulations. A fine of $5,000 to be paid to the association within 30 days of ratification. Probation of membership for 1 calendar year, and any second violation of Article 10 within said probation period will result in immediate suspension of the association. And the hearing panel recommends the respondent complete an anger management class. Technically, the association doesn't have the authority to require that. That's why it was recommended. Rationale for discipline, if any, if violations found. Violation of Article 10 is a very serious violation, which may also result in further legal action by FREC. The consequences for non-compliance with discipline. Any subsequent violation of Article 10 within 1 year from ratification shall result in immediate suspension of the association membership. The final conclusion is the $5,000 fine was not paid, and as a result, the respondent is no longer a member of this association. So as a forum, you get an A+. You did very good. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us and participating.
Great job.